right, welcome everybody to another session of the Legends series. Today with us, Hunter Gorskie. Grew up in Marlboro, New Jersey, attended Stanford University, played for the Central Jersey Spartans, Chicago Fire, New Jersey Rangers, New York Cosmos, Miedź Legnica of Poland, Tampa Bay Rowdies, Thisted FC, Loudoun United, and currently with San Antonio FC. Welcome, Hunter.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here. Back to where it all began.
That's awesome, man. So thanks for hopping on, and you've obviously got a bit of a journey behind you, and I'm sure there's plenty of valuable information that you can share to our audience here. Why don't we start off with a young Hunter Gorskie? How did you get involved in the game, and what inspired you?
I've been involved with the game. I can't even remember when I wasn't involved with the game. Ever since I can remember, I was kicking a ball, probably thanks to my older brother, Jason. He also went on to play at the collegiate level at University of Pennsylvania. He also had a professional career after college. And so I was always trying to keep up with him and compete with him. And so we'd always be in the backyard kicking the ball around. And that's sort of, that's the earliest I can remember. Obviously played in, growing up, I played for my local team, Marlboro. Very fortunate to have some great coaches there that really knew the game and cared about our development as youngsters. So we end up having, I don't know if you know Alex Lejean, another New Jersey product, plays in the MLS today. We were on the same team growing up in Marlboro. So we did have a couple products that came from that area and continue to come through that area.
All right. So what did that consist of? Was that street ball? Was that purely because of the club? Was it just you guys just getting together? How did you build a foundation to become such a good player?
That's a great question. It's a little bit of everything. A lot of extra hours. I could definitely say that. My house in New Jersey, we share a fence with one of the local elementary schools. And so at that elementary school is a big wall. And my brother and I would spend a lot of time competing with each other at that wall, just making up all kinds of games, whether it's soccer, tennis, or just playing two touch off the wall, stuff like that. But we would always be putting in that extra time there. And then in terms of just how that area, how the players ended up being, we had Frank Rizzi. He owns CTR Soccer. Now he's partners with Tab Ramos. He was a longtime trainer of mine growing up. He still does a lot of amazing work in the area. He's a mentor to me to this day. And so him and the staff there were fundamental in those early days in Marlboro as well.
You tell us a little bit about the wall. What type of things, did you do off the wall? There's so many players that talk about their relationship with the wall and how much it impacted their career and building that base. Tell us a little bit about the stuff you used to do up against the wall.
Oh man, the wall never lets you down, The wall never lets you down. All you got to do is show up with a ball and you can get as many touches as you want to get in there, So as committed as you are and however many extra hours you want to put in, the wall will put that time in with you. It was and still to this day in the off season, when I go back to my house and train in the off season, I still go to that same wall, and all kinds of stuff that I can do. If I can relate it to the game and do position specific work, that's great. If not, just getting my touch as sharp as possible so that it becomes, second nature, and I don't have to think about it when I'm in game situations. The things that should just happen automatically, they start to happen automatically. And so my brother set the tone for me there and sort of led the way. I've been so fortunate to have him as really as my role model and my guide throughout my life, but also through my soccer career, to be able to just, look at someone and see what excellence looks like and what is necessary to happen in order for you to get, where you want to get in your career. Not every kid in the country has that. So I was lucky to have him. And then obviously all I had to do from that point was follow in the footsteps and take advantage.
So let me ask you, did somebody tell you guys to go to that wall, or did you guys just hop the fence and go into the school and and you just figured it out on your own? Because I grew up playing on a wall too, and I don't remember anyone specifically saying to me, hey, why don't you do this off the wall? I kind of just used to go down to the park and play, and there was a wall there, and me too, I started making up stuff. Is that what happened with you, or did someone tell you to use the wall?
Someone did not tell us specifically to use the wall. So a lot of that was natural, and we really do just to this day, people around me, describe me as a soccer junkie at times, just in terms of like, I love going out there. I'm always the happiest one in 5v2. I'm buzzing around no matter what. So I just love spending time with the ball and constantly working at the craft. However, my father is, he's definitely a disciplinarian of type, like really hard worker, values that consistent and determined work ethic. And so that was definitely an expectation in our house. There was one rule in our house, and the rule was don't be lazy. Take action. If you want to get something more than other people have, you have to do something more than other people are doing. And so we really knew from a young age that if we wanted to go far and achieve certain things, that there's a certain amount of work that's necessary in order to achieve that. So I think it was a combination of, a little bit of guidance from our father and showing us what real work is all about, and then as well as a passion and love for the game and wanting to do that work. Beautiful.
And did you and your brother used to play games against other kids in the neighborhood? Did that used to happen? And if it did, how important do you think that whole playing with freedom and without a coach watching and being able to express yourself, how important was that, you think, in your development?
Massively important. We did do that. I remember distinctly, in elementary school at times, sometimes it would be like, they would put us two together, and then we'd be playing against like 20 kids or something like that, just to see like what would happen. So there definitely was some of that. There's also, I'll just clue you in, there's some infamous stories. I had quite a temper when I was a younger player, and to this day, I absolutely hate to lose. But when I was younger, I was less adept at controlling that temper. And so, there were stories where our trainers would almost have to put us on the same team, because if my brother beat me, I would just go nuts. And so, there's all kinds of that. But I think that pickup, it seems like you're asking like how important is pickup play and that, unrestricted kind of play of the game. Massively important. And to this day, every single off season, I'm playing pickup 3 times a week. Just because it's a different way to craft your skill. It's also, it's an amazing way to engage with other players that are in the same headspace as you and looking to get the same thing out of the game and have some fun as well. So I definitely think that played a big role in cultivating, our love for the game and ensuring that we never really got burned out with it.
Awesome. So you played at Marlboro. How old were you when you left it? Did you go play all the way through, or how did that pan out?
No, so I made a move. So actually, another tip of the hat to my dad. He knew that in order, if I was excelling in my career, we were going to have to make certain moves to bigger clubs that had more exposure. At that time, Howell, which was a neighboring town, they were a very strong club, and they allowed outsiders to come in. So I'm pretty sure at the time Marlboro didn't allow any outsiders to come in. So, the talent pool, you were picking from a smaller population, whereas Howell did allow outsiders. And so made the transition over to Howell. We won some state cups there, had an awesome team. And then eventually from Howell, I made the move to PDA.
How old were you when you went to PDA?
It's a great question. I would need to refer to my mother to recall some of those dates. It all gets sort of fused together for me. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Okay. And then from there you went on and played college ball at Stanford, right?
That's correct.
What a great school that is. So you were pretty switched on in the classroom too then, right?
Yeah, definitely switched on in the classroom. That was another thing that was sort of, it was a non-conversation. Me and my brother understood that it was we had to do well in school. It wasn't really an option. And so, that never really was a problem for me. I mean, one of the things, maybe it's built into my personality a little bit, but it's something I say this quote all the time with my brother and a couple of my best friends. which is how you do anything is how you do everything. So if I was going to go to a classroom, I wanted to do the best I could possibly do on a test. If I'm going to, whatever I'm going to do, I'm already there doing it. So I might as well excel at it and get something out of it. So that's the mentality I brought to the classroom. And so I remember at that age understanding that the better I do in the classroom, the more opportunity there is for me. And then I have more to choose from. So that I had enough sense just to make that out. And that alone gave me the impetus to say, okay, well, I do want to have as much opportunity as possible. So I'm going to give myself the best opportunity to do that.
So you went to Stanford, a great soccer school, obviously. How big was the jump from, youth soccer in New Jersey to such a great soccer school like Stanford?
It was, I think there's definitely a jump there. Obviously, anytime you're going from, youth to the college level and physicality and such and speed of play, but I thought I was very adequately prepared. To this day, I still have a great relationship with the guys at PDA. They do phenomenal work. The coaching staff there is unbelievable. We have, our fields and the exposure we get and being surrounded by other top players, I think prepared me very well for the college game. Also, I remember in the off season, just putting in that extra work, making sure I came in as one of the fittest guys, probably put me in good footing to go in and make a difference right away when I got there. And so that's what ended up happening. So
you play as a center back, right? You still play as a center back?
The evolution of my position is one that is controversial at dinner tables in my house. My parents don't love that I play defense. I used to always play center mid. In high school, I was actually attacking mid, and eventually, when I got to college, my first season, I played right back. Although I was playing center back for PDA. First season, right back. Second season, right back, a little center mid. Third season, center back. Fourth season, center back.
Okay, so growing up, you didn't bounce around a lot too much in the positions, just mostly center mid and attacking mid?
No, I did bounce around also. I think over the course of my career, that's sort of been like my niche, I guess you would say, just being like the versatile player that I could pretty much, learn and play any position that's required of me. So definitely at the professional level, which I'm sure we'll get to, that's helped me slot into a lot of games and situations. But earlier on, I was mostly center mid, and then I remember in PDA is really where I made the transition from center mid to center back.
Yeah, and that obviously played a big part in the big picture, right? You bouncing around as a youngster. How did that make a difference, do you think?
Oh, massively. Just to be able to understand what the different demands positionally of a center back versus center mid versus a right back. You sort of get an understanding of how to exploit those systems also, but then also it gives you a deeper appreciation for the role that other players are playing and how I can make the game easier for them, right? So if I'm a center back, I know exactly where the pass needs to go for a center mid to set him up to succeed, as, same thing for the outside back. So the more, and I would encourage players to look at the game that way, the more you understand what the different positions are doing, the more effective a teammate you could be.
So when you bounced around, did you feel like your preparation, your mental preparation was different? So, you obviously have to visualize a little bit, and you're thinking about the upcoming game, and you're normally a center mid, and now all of a sudden, you're going to go center back. Were those pictures in your mind completely different when you were preparing for the game?
Speaking more earlier in my career, or where in the timeline would you say? Because it varies depending on
even back then as a kid when you were bouncing around, did you play a different role in your mind first before you actually got out on the field?
Thinking about it now, it's a great question that I haven't thought about that much, but thinking about it now, the most important thing to me always was I'm going to win my one-on-one battle. Like, I'm not going to lose to whoever's matched up on the other side of me, whether that's a forward or whether that's a center mid, didn't really matter. My mentality was I'm going to find a way to get the better of this player. So as far as, shifting positions, that mentality is sort of what everything fell under, and continues to fall under to this day. So I didn't, no, I wouldn't say that I had to, obviously there's different things that you need to focus on as a defender and as a center mid. So I definitely did, visualize that before the game and understand like what my different role is. But I was very open-minded and adaptable, and had the belief that, yeah, it doesn't matter. If I'm playing center mid, I can do what I need to do to be an effective center mid. If I'm center back, I understand what I need to do to be an effective center back as well.
Nice, nice. So after Stanford, you went to Chicago Fire. How was that experience?
So Chicago Fire actually came in while I was at Stanford. So after my junior season, I knew in the off season when I was at college that I wanted to be exposing myself to next level environments to basically plan for afterwards, to get in front of MLS coaches or whoever to be able to advance my career. Chicago Fire, I played for their PDL team during the summer between my junior and senior year of college. Great experience. We had an awesome team. I think we ended up playing in some Open Cup games and played against Sporting KC in their stadium, which was an awesome experience for somebody in college like myself. But after Stanford, I actually was with San Jose Earthquakes.
Okay.
I didn't get drafted. Obviously, tough moment. I had known right when I got into Stanford that I wanted to be playing professionally afterwards. And so I was lucky in Stanford to have a couple players as a model in that process, to basically, it's called graduate in 3 1/4 when we were there, which basically means like you just load up on units so that you're able to graduate early right after your fall season, so that you could then potentially go directly into the MLS draft, have your degree, and then go on and play at the professional level. So I achieved that. I planned for that, graduated in the fall, did not get drafted. And then, but to me, it didn't matter that much. Obviously, any player wants to get drafted and be chosen and be selected and have a team and a coach that says, we want you, we believe in you. But I had no problem at any point in my career proving my worth. And I knew as long as I got in front of a coaching staff, that I would find a way to make a career for myself and get on the field. And so eventually I got invited to preseason with San Jose Earthquakes. And it's a fun little story, so I guess I'll tell it just because it probably has some good lessons in it for any youngsters listening. And I know we talked about ODP a little bit before this, and we could get into it as well, just in terms of dealing with adversity and the different things. So they had invited me in for a 2-day trial, basically, which isn't atypical when you get to the next level. And you sort of take any opportunity you can get, right, especially when you're coming out of college. So they invited me in for the 2-day trial, and they invited me in as a right back. And went in there, did my thing, played well. But at the end of those couple days, they said, hey, we really like you. We know you're from we know you from Stanford as well. We definitely think you're of the level and quality to be able to play at this level in the MLS. You've shown that. But we don't have an availability for you. We have 3 right backs on the roster already. And so it's not going to work for this season, but we'll keep an eye on you. And for some, I'm not one to take no for an answer to begin with. And I remember right where I was in the moment, and this goes back to my versatility as a player, I guess. I said, but what about center back? You guys, and it was the assistant coach I was talking to at the time, Mark Watson. I said, what about center back? You guys don't have a lot of options there. And he took a second to think about it. And maybe it was with the conviction with which I said this, but he was like, you know what, you might be, he's like, you're right about that. We saw you play a little center mid. It just so happened at that training, I played some center mid. And he said, I'm going to go talk to Frank, the head coach, about it. And maybe we'll take a look at you as center mid when we come back from our trip to Ventura. I think they were going to for preseason. It just so happens they went away to Ventura. And when they came back, they gave me a call because all 3 of the right backs got injured in this preseason trip to Ventura. And so whether they needed extra bodies or whatever it was, they invited me back in to start training again. And long story short, I was supposed to come back in for maybe a week or 2. I ended up being there for 3 months, which a lot of players probably wouldn't have been okay with that situation. They would want an answer and be able to know either you guys want me or you don't want me, and I'm going to move on and find another opportunity. But my mindset has always been, and this is important for the listeners, My mindset was always, if I'm in front of a coaching staff for anything longer than a week or 2 weeks, I'm going to grow on them like mold. Like part of my game is just consistency, showing up every day, working harder than everyone else, and doing my job. And I know that the more time that goes on, eventually the coaching staff is going to sort of just turn around and they're going to say, I can't really see the situation without this guy, like every single day he does well and he does what we ask. Like, I trust this guy. And so eventually that's what happened. After three-ish months, they were already playing games into the season. They were ready to offer me a contract. And it just so happens that at the same time, my mentor that I told you about earlier, Frank Rizzi, he was very close with Giovanni Savarese, who was about to become the head coach at New York Cosmos, which was this up-and-coming awesome project and team they were putting together. And they offered me a contract at the same time. And so now I had pretty much the most difficult decision in my career to date that I would have to make: either play in the MLS, which is the top level, obviously all the accolades, you get to tell all your friends in the MLS, or play in the second division NASL for an exciting organization and probably get the opportunity to play a lot earlier than I would if I was going through the MLS system. And then the last bit I'll say about that is I was waiting on Polish citizenship. So I was in the process of trying to acquire my European citizenship, which would allow me the opportunity to go play abroad, which was always a dream of mine. And so I knew if I signed the MLS contract, it was going to be a 4-year deal, and it would have delayed the process to go abroad, and I wouldn't have had my own rights. And so I valued my freedom more than I valued at that time potentially just having my name associated with the top league. And I signed a 1-year deal with the Cosmos instead.
Okay, so we'll get to the European thing.
Yep.
So you played at Cosmos, who was a star-studded team, I believe. You had some big names there, right?
Oh yeah.
Who were some of the big ones? Was Raul there at the time?
Raul joined in 2015. Marco Senna was one of the big names in 2013. Villarreal legend, played for the Spanish national team, Euro Cup champion. And then we had a lot of other great players trickled in: Carlos Mendez, Hunter Freeman, Iose, Roversio, a lot of big names there. Danny Zatella still plays there to this day. And New York Cosmos was a dream. Highlight of my career, my years there. I mean, we went on to achieve some special things and had an unbelievable group, family, I would call it. We won 2 championships there, made a couple good runs in the US Open Cup, and unbelievable time. We traveled the world because that was part of the Cosmos brand, the sort of global brand that we want to be recognized across the world. So we went on some amazing trips together, and we achieved a lot. We achieved a lot in those years for sure.
Tell us a little bit about Senna, Marcus Senna. How good was he?
Unbelievable. Probably the best player that I played with in terms of just all around game. Like I can't remember. I could probably count on both my hands the amount of times I've seen him lose the ball in the 3 years that I played with him. Just unbelievable guy as well. Super humble, very professional. Body positioning, incredible. Touch, unbelievable. There are just some players, they really do have a knack for understanding how to position themselves and put themselves between the man and the ball so that defenders just don't have a chance to get it from them. And that's exactly what you want out of your defensive midi, right? So as a defender, I would be able to – I knew that no matter what situation I got in, I could just ping a ball at this guy. It was going to stick to him like glue, and he was going to get us out of the situation. So obviously having that in the back of my mind allows me to just play completely free and not fear sort of any consequences. And so that was built into our identity there. We a part of our identity is we play out of the back no matter what. Like, we don't care if anyone high presses you. We were sort of arrogant in that way, but that was us. And so we would build out of pressure absolutely no matter what.
Yeah. So just with Senna real quick. So a key word I'm guessing would be efficiency. Just never lost a ball, never had a bad first touch, all the simple stuff executed, right?
Yeah, efficiency and poise. Like, just, when he had the ball, it looked like, you know, you're just watching like the waves in an ocean, you know, just very calm and cool and collected and smooth. His technique was next level.
Awesome. Now let's talk about your move to Miedź Legnica. Am I saying it right?
You didn't butcher it too bad. It's Miedź Legnica.
All right. All right. So in Poland, right? They're Polish. Am I right?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. So tell us the difference there. I mean, by this stage now, you've tasted some college soccer. You've tasted MLS. You've gone to a star-studded New York Cosmos, and now you're landing in Poland, which isn't like a real powerhouse in Europe, but they have produced some amazing players over the years. Tell us the difference between you know, not a top European league, but still a great league. What's the difference that you noticed?
Yeah, so one thing right off the bat is just style of play. Like I said, you went from Cosmos, which was we build out of the back no matter what, highly technical game, which that's my game. You know, I love being on the ball and finding creative solutions out of situations and being under pressure that way and trying to build out of it. Poland it's very direct and mechanical game. You got some big boys in Poland. And so, you know, even to very small details, like I remember some of the details that would be taught by the coaches were very different details than would be taught by a coaching staff, perhaps in the US or for other clubs I played for. Things like, you know, outside midfielders, when we're in the attack and the center mid has the ball, like if the center midfielder was standing 3 yards off the spot that he wanted him to stand on when a player got the ball in this positioning, that was like the biggest disaster in a video session. Not here, not here, like every single time. So it was that sort of mechanical, which it was like, you know, definitely a different kind of thing, a lot less free flowing and a lot more structure.
Methodical.
Yeah. One thing I will say, huge difference is promotion relegation. So that makes everything, it's do or die really every single week. And you could feel that intensity in the lead up to games and in games every single week. Like everything was on the line for everybody. And at that point, there's a lot less politics involved at that point as well. At the end of the day, the coach's job is on the line as well, right? So he's going to put the 11 guys that he believes is going to win him the game. And that's it. And so just experiencing that level of intensity and the fact that there were such grave consequences or amazing rewards if you do get promoted was a different kind of thing that was awesome to be exposed to.
Well, that definitely surprised me. I thought you were going to tell me that the game was a little bit slower and a little bit more tactical and more patient in bringing the ball up, but they're kind of like into physical and direct football, eh?
Oh, very physical, very physical. You got guys putting in some strong challenges there for sure, and they are not scared to do the work defensively. And so that was another thing that I really appreciated was the pressure was immediate and in your face and relentless. So you really had to make quick decisions and also be able to hold yourself physically as well.
Is that one of the big reasons why you left? You didn't like the physicality and the intelligence? No,
not at all. The reason I left is another crazy story and a little complicated. It was stuff that a lot of people don't hear about. That, you know, professional players we know because we hear stories from different players. But make a long story short, I had signed a 2.5-year deal there. I was coming up on the end of the first year and a half, so I'd spent a half season there because I joined them halfway through. Came back home briefly, went back over, and then that was the first full year I was with them. We were pushing for promotion, and so and what I mean by that is, you know, for anybody that doesn't know, in Europe, there's sometimes there's clubs that don't have the money or resources to really make a push and spend money to get quality players to try and get promoted. Some years they're just trying to get by. and just stay in the league they're in. Miedź Legnica at the time, we were pushing for promotion for probably 4 years prior to when I got there. We had, I think, 10 or 11 internationals on my team from different countries. So they were spending some money to try and get promoted. And towards the end of the season, it was looking like we weren't going to get promoted. Like mathematically, we were almost out of it. And so they started having meetings with some of the international players, basically saying, listen, we've tried to push for promotion for the past 4 or 5 years. We really want to just, we want to sort of cut back for the following year. We want to just go with our domestic players, younger players, and a couple older domestic players. And so, we want to sort of go separate ways in terms of the contracts with our international players. It wasn't just with me, it was with many of us. And so at that time, obviously when the deal was already for 2.5 years, like there's certain accommodations I would have to make quickly to be able to adapt to that situation. I'd probably have to go on trial in other countries throughout Europe. I would have to pay for those trials. I'd have to pay for flights and accommodations, and I have to move all my stuff out of Poland. So there were certain things that basically my agent was telling them, that's fine, but like you're going to have to compensate him for some portion of the contract that he was due for the following year, because he's going to have unexpected expenses and I'm going to have to find a new situation. All of that was mixed. I was already sort of getting ready to make a move. A little bit of what you said, I did want to experience a different type of football in a different place. And sort of all of that happened at the same time. But as that was happening, the club basically didn't want to have to incur any of those expenses. And so they basically told the coach to stop playing me for the remainder of the season. And then when it was time to go home, I had called the manager because they were supposed to take care of my flights to go home. Mind you, I hadn't seen my family for like 10 months, which I love being at home with my family. I'm a big family guy. And I called the manager, said, hey, you guys haven't booked the flight yet. I'm going to book it and go home, and you guys could reimburse me. I got a call back from him saying, the president just informed me that if you book your flight and go home, you're in breach of the contract because we're not releasing you until the second team is released to go home, which is in a month. And then if you want to come back next year, you can come back and play with the second team, which is playing in 4th Division Poland, which was out of the question. So they're basically trying to put my feet to the fire to get out of the financial situation they're potentially in. So a little bit of darkness and not so kosher things going on there. And so that definitely played a role into my decision with obviously looking for new opportunities.
Yeah. So, I'm just trying to keep this on an education level, because there's a lot of young players that do want to play in Europe, and you've got to be careful on where you go. People don't realize that, over 90% of the clubs are almost running on $0. They kind of like scrape through, and there's a lot of horror stories of people not getting paid. Were you getting paid consistently? Was it on time, or were they backing it up and you're getting paid every 3 months, or sometimes not get paid at all? I mean, there's a lot of these stories of players that I know that leave clubs because they haven't been paid.
Great question and great point. That you're 100% spot on. That happens across the board. Miedź Legnica, one thing I will say is they were very professional. They paid on time. They had a couple people in the organization who spoke English. That was a huge thing that I didn't touch on. I didn't speak Polish at the time, so I had to learn Polish. But no, they did pay on time, so that was good. But you're exactly right. I mean, there's teams that go bankrupt all the time, so players are just out of a team. There's teams that don't pay on time. We won't get into it, but I had I've been to Israel 2 different times for several months at a time, potentially looking to sign for clubs there. I have unbelievable stories from Israel as well. But you really have to be careful when you're going abroad and looking at the different leagues. You need to link up with somebody who understands the market really well, has your best interests at heart, and could sort of back you up with it.
Yeah, definitely. So now you're at San Antonio. So tell us a little bit about what's going on there. You guys are about to start a season. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, we're 4 games into the season now. our fourth game is coming up this next weekend. We're top of the table at the moment. Obviously, with the state of everything, the season has been reduced to a 16-game season. So it's a little bit of a sprint here. As far as I know, there will be a playoff at the end of that. So, nothing's changed for us since the beginning of the year. Just it's a shortened season. We're looking at, we have a special group, a lot of committed guys. We have a clear identity. We have a lot of the important pieces in place from my experience that it takes to win a championship. So, we'll be pushing hard for that. I'm pretty optimistic about what we can achieve this year.
So is there all types of restrictions and testing going on for you guys in order to play in the league? Are you guys restricted from going to public places or hanging out in crowded areas? You guys signed any type of special agreement that you guys are staying safe and not exposing yourselves?
Yeah, exactly. We have done. We've signed an agreement. We've signed an agreement that has specific protocols in place and rules that we need to adhere to. We also get tested every single week. And there's obviously all kinds of protocols in place that if somebody does come back with a positive test, thankfully my team is tested negative 6 weeks in a row. So the guys are doing a good job being responsible. But it is a little different for sure. Like a lot of guys don't, we try not to spend too much time in close spaces or around each other in the locker room. And so, there's different accommodations you have to make. Also, what they've done to help is they've broken the league into regions. And so we only play against the 4 other teams in our region. We travel by bus. We don't travel by plane. So they've put other things in place to alleviate the situation.
Yeah, man, at least you guys are playing. That's great. So you obviously got an amazing journey and you've experienced a lot. And we brought up ODP. So before I let you unleash with your experience of ODP, so I've interviewed a number of people and a number of high profile people, and most of them didn't make it the first time round. Are you one of them?
I'm one of them. To some extent, I'm one of them for sure. And so that's where I remember telling you in the lead up to this, that's where ODP is where I developed my tough skin at a young age, which I'm grateful for 100%. Looking back on it now, I mean, it's a bit cliche, but for sure, it's the moments of adversity where you find out what you're all about and you develop the deep confidence you need to go on and achieve, special things. So, so my experience with ODP is, obviously you have area ODP. I made the area team. I got cut at the state team my first year, which was a bit shocking for sure to me and to people in my close circle. But obviously, it was sort of fuel to my fire. But literally every single year in ODP, I would come back, I would make it to the very next stage I got cut at, and then I would get cut at the next stage. So I came and made it to state pool. I got cut at state team. Next year I came back, I made state team. I got cut at regional pool. Next year I came back, I made regional pool. I got cut at regional team. Next year literally that's how it went every single year. Made a little bit of progress, got cut, basically said took that. It was a terrible hit. It hurts when you get cut. I know there's a lot of youth players out there that could resonate with that. But it allowed me to taste defeat and then learn the lesson that if I want to change that situation, I need to work harder than anybody else that was making that team. And so I would go back, I would work tremendously hard the next year with an eye towards making it further than I did the year before. And I would achieve that, but then I would get cut at the next level and have to repeat the process. So I eventually did that, making it to the national pool, which was held in New Jersey for that year. And I was told I was the 19th guy on the national team roster for that season. And that was sort of when I was making transition into college game and stuff like that. So, didn't quite make it to the top, to the national team. And that was sort of my goal, but it was an amazing learning experience for me, really. And, to this day, to be able to test yourself against other players in your area, in your state, in your region. I remember some of the regional trips that I went to Italy with the regional team, had some unbelievable growth and learning experiences with the ODP program that are irreplaceable. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you put it nicely. That's one of the hardest things with the ODP process. I mean, you know, we're going through tryouts in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for the kids themselves. Some of them show up nervous. They're not comfortable. As a coach, it's not easy neither, you know, to quickly identify who can get it done and who can't. But as part of our email to when kids get rejected, we give them examples of top players that didn't make it their first time or second go around, just to encourage them to have the same attitude that you had. So it's great to hear that you went back and rolled your sleeves up and worked even harder and got back on it, and the next step and the next step. And you know, you see, you didn't make the national pool, but you know, if it was another coach, maybe it would be different, right? You don't know.
That's right.
Maybe you were good enough, but it was just somebody with a different opinion out there.
Let me tell you something. ODP gets you ready for the world, the competitive, the competitive world that's out there. I stand by that. I mean, I remember when I was a youth player, going through the ODP program, you know, and you're a young guy, and you got cut at state team the year before, and you're looking at names that are on the national team roster. You're looking at guys that made the regional team, and you're looking at them like they're gold or something, you know. So there was never there, you know, that got you ready, you know, literally put all of these kids in, see who's going to rise to the top. And it's like, it's competitive as hell. And I love that about it. And I love the challenge of coming back and seeing that through and just driving to try and get to the top of that chain. And I'll tell you what, when I look to my left and my right today, there's not a lot of guys that are still around with me. So, the one thing I will say that I think is really important to the youth players, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Don't take that little snapshot and make that your career right there. I'm telling you right now, there's the guys that were the gold standard who are making those national teams and regional teams. They ain't here anymore, you know? So, just keep at it and have a long-term.
The grinders are still there, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, so you also now work with Yael on Techni Football, right? Tell us a little bit about your role in the company, which is fantastic. I mean, I love Yael. I love what she's doing. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and your involvement.
I have my shirt right here.
There you go.
That's the logo for everybody to see. If you haven't heard of it, now you do. Now you know. You should have heard of it. No, Techni is unbelievable, and Yael, like you said, has done an incredible job building that into a really meaningful resource for youth players. I've known Yael and her sister Shira for a while. They're from the New Jersey, New York area. I also went to school with Shira, who's Yael's sister. I had always had my eye on Techni, and I knew that it was what she was working on, and I knew that the impact that it was having on youth players across the country. And so recently, I had the opportunity to sort of sit down with her and get involved and join the team in a large way. And so my role there is to basically ensure that coaches and players are getting the most out of our resource. At the end of the day, the most important thing to me, to Yael, to the Techni team, is that the players are engaging and they're getting something out of the resource and the experience, and they're actually motivated and guided to be able to put in the extra work on their own at home, in addition to what they're doing with their teams in their team training environment. You heard it earlier in my story, and it's very similar to Yael's story. You know, we put in that extra work besides what we were doing with our team, and it's a cliche. It's said all the time, but coaches say this. You know, it's about what you do when you go home and you're away from the team that's going to make the difference, and that really is the case. And so we basically empower players to go ahead and take advantage of that opportunity. Yael's accrued all of the resources that she's been exposed to over her career and consulted with other professional players to be able to make high quality content that's presented in an awesome package for players to be able to download on an app and interact with and be guided and get great messaging. and then also accessible for clubs to be able to provide that for their players. And so she's done wonderfully to merge all of those things together, to make it a great user experience. And at the end of the day, it's having a huge impact. I mean, we see it with the clubs we work with. The players are reporting being more confident on the ball. Their technical ability is superior. The coaches report that as well. And that only makes sense, right? The more time you spend on the ball, the better you're going to be on the ball, the more confident you're going to be. And so we've obviously added layers to make it fun and competitive and make a community around it. But we also have an eye towards actually making a difference with the youth player and giving them a resource that could help them get the edge.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got some players that I know that are on it, and I've noticed a difference in the comfort with the ball at their feet. There is no doubt about it that it works, and that's why I'm a fan as well. So we're going to wrap this up with a couple of questions.
Yes,
your favorite team?
Favorite San Antonio FC, whichever one I'm playing for.
All right. European team?
European team. I like Barcelona. I like the beautiful game. So Barcelona would probably be my pick.
Favorite player?
Favorite player would be Marcelo, because he plays with so much fun and passion. Like you could see that he just absolutely loves the game.
Yes, he does. Final question. Advice to the next generation? How
you do anything is how you do everything. I'll repeat it. How you do anything is how you do everything. If you just remember that and apply that kind of effort to everything you do in life, opportunities will find their way to you, and you will be ready to seize those opportunities. That's how you stay ready. Last sort of quote I'll put out there. I'm starting a podcast soon, actually, with one of my best friends from Stanford University, and the name of the podcast is "Go Get It." And so that's what I would recommend. Don't wait for anybody to give you opportunities. You just got to go get it. Roll up your sleeves and get into action.
Awesome stuff, man. Listen, I think me and you could talk for months and months, mate.
I would love to.
Yeah. So thanks for hopping on today. Fantastic story. I know our players, our coaches, our parents can really get a lot out of our conversation here. Thanks for hopping on, and good luck with everything, and keep us up to date with what's going on, and let us know if we can help you in any way.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on here and to give back in some small way to New Jersey youth soccer. I mean, it's where it all began for me. So I want to see it continue to go, and I know New Jersey's producing some of the best players in the country year on year. So love to give back and see that continue.
Thank you, Hunter. Thank you so much, my man.
All right. Have a great one.
Yep.
Bye-bye.